before we begin. So I was reflecting upon yesterday's shir a little bit, just thinking about how it went. See, we're at an interesting transition here because yes, you're learning Gemara for the last month, whatever it is, and yes, you ate up into it, but as I'm sure you realize, it's not like regular Gemara learning with all these like interesting tidbits and stories and whatever. It wasn't like meat and potatoes Gemara. So I was considering how we launch into the transition back to a regular sugya. It's not an incredibly complicated sugya, but it's a sugya. And I think that I may have. But I'm about to say you're going to say no. Maybe you're right, no. But I think I may have done it we might have moved too quickly. I think we might have moved too quickly, and like I think we pretty much went like a Daf Yomi pace, and I'm sure you understood it on a Daf Yomi level. This isn't an Ian shir, but I'm afraid that like we went too fast for everyone to really get the structure of the Gemara, the what's happening play by play. I think we kind of like you were dragging along too fast. That's my feeling.
I wouldn't mind going.
You're probably all thinking no, it's just fine, but that will always be the case. In other words, a person never knows what he doesn't know. You only know what you do know. So of course, everyone feels I got it, unless you really didn't get what was flying, but that you got. But I have a feeling the proof will be the pudding. I'm going to suggest, like so to speak, pretend yesterday never happened. Not the whole day yesterday, but when we resume the Mishnah, we'll do it again, like maybe how a different way, different style or pace of teaching it, as if I never did it before. And then you at the end of the year can tell me if, oh yes, I didn't get all that the first time through. I'm going to read the same words. I'm essentially just going to go a little slower and define the structure and the moving. And if you tell me no, that wasn't any more than yesterday, so then okay, then I'll know we can go faster. But I think I went too fast. I think it was not that Mushdar enough. That's my feeling. So we'll do it again. So we're holding on record. Now the recording can start in earnest. I forgot his name. The English guy who comes. No. He was sitting over here yesterday. He's been coming a couple times recently. From Manchester.
Oh yeah.
He was sitting here.
Sitting right
I
here.
don't know his name, but I know who you mean.
Tark?
Yes, the big has quite a beard now. It's a beard.
I don't know his name.
Okay, I forgot his name. It's a problem. Okay.
What are you
I don't know his name. I'm hoping someone knows his name that can tell me. Because I forgot it. It's awkward. Okay. In any case, fine. Okay. So we're going to do this again. We're recording. We're holding on Daf Ches Amud Beis. I want to pick up with the two dots. I think maybe sort of line 33 or so. There's a maybe someone line. There's a phrase Rabban Gamliel Omer v'chulei. The first line is Gamliel. What line is that? 30. Someone know the line number?
Well, from the bottom up, it's like
The bottom up it's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 lines up, exactly up. Yeah, the first word is 12 and then exactly. 12 lines up the bottom is Rabban, 11 lines up the bottom is Gamliel, Omer. So that is v'chulei. That little, I guess we'll call it a koteret, like a headline, is telling you that we're now, it's enclosed by 2 colons, it's telling you we're now going back to piece of the Mishnah. Okay? Now, we saw that Mishnah like a month ago or more, so I think it makes sense to actually take a moment to look back at the Mishnah. Yesterday, I know I did just sum it up, but I think it makes sense just to see the Mishnah inside, because we're going to sort of pick it apart a little bit. So, the Mishnah said, we're going back there. So, look at the base Amud Aleph. So it says, Me'emasai Kor Nishma Ba'arvin, when is the starting time for saying Krishma in the evening? The answer is B'shash Kohanim Nitmas left of the Trumasan, from when the Kohanim started their Truma, which we said is Teisuk Kochavim, and we discussed that already. That part of the Mishnah has been dissected by the Gemara later on. Ad Sofa Shmur Rishona, the ending time is the end of the first watch, which says the third of the night, Div Rabbi Eliezer, so that would be if the night is in 12, and our conceptual night will go from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. So then we're talking the first third, or 4 to 12 hours, so 10 p.m. is the deadline, after which time it's too late, and if you say Kriya Shema at that point, you're not Yotzi, even with the evidence, says Rabbi Eliezer. And the Chachamim say at Chatzos, they said the deadline is midnight, and Rabban Gamliel Omer ad she'ala ha'shachar. He says until the pillar of the dawn rises. It means the break of dawn. But that's the end of the night, and that's when the deadline ends. And we said the machlokas is really over the understanding of the verse uveshachbacha uvukumecha in your lying down. And we said either in your lying down can mean when you go to lie down or while you are lying down as a society. And if you understand it as when you are going to lie down, like Rabbi Eliezer does, it means the normal bedtime in society. And the normal bedtime for society is the beginning of the night, the first third of the night. So past that time, at 11 p.m., it's no longer time to go to bed. It's past that time. And therefore, you're not mekayim the pasuk uveshachbacha in your collective societal lying down. It's Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Gamliel said no. Then the dust settled. He understands the verse to mean uveshachbacha and while you lie down in your beds at night. And that's the whole night long. So therefore, the whole night long is fair game for saying kriya shema, because it fulfills the verse, and you're yotzi till the morning. And the Chachamim had a middle time, so midnight. And the Gemara asked, well, whose side are they on? And it answered that really they agree with Rabbi Gamliel as far as the interpretation of the verse, that uveshachbacha means while you're in your bed, and therefore kriya shema shel arvis, the evening, nighttime kriya shema goes on the whole night long. It's just that, as we'll see in the Mishnah, the rabbis wanted to protect you from missing the boat and starting Kriya Shema too late and doing an Aveira of being Levantal Mitzvahs Aseh, Kriya Shema, and therefore he said it by Chatzos, you must say it as a Durabanan. And it came out then, that if you wait till after midnight, halachah midnight to say Kriya Shema, you actually are over Nisa Durabanan of ignoring the rabbis, but you're still Yotzi your Kriya Shema. That's how it came out. That we discussed as a bit of Rishonim talk about. According to some Rishonim, if you didn't have a good reason why you missed it, maybe you don't get any more mitzvah bun, but that's not the halachas. We'll do that alone. Fine. Now,
This is Shulchan
No. So okay, good. So good. Thank you for asking that question. Let me clarify some things. Is this talking about Kriya Shema L'mita? The answer is no. There's the Torah mandates, as we said way back when. The pasuk mandates that there's 2 Kriya Shemas every day. Uveshachbacha, in or when you lie down. That's our Mishnah here. And another one, uvukumecha, when you get up in the morning, which we're not talking about yet. That'll be coming up soon enough. Then we had said on the bottom of Daf Dalam base that there's another mitzvah to say Kriya Shema when you go to bed at night. But it's like the assumption is just to simplify it. You'd say Kriya Shema at Maariv, at 8 p.m. let's say, and that's your yotzina Kriya Shema of uveshachbacha. But then when you go to bed at 10 o'clock, let's say, so then you then would say it's like part of like the Hamapil Kriya Shema, a second Kriya Shema, and they serve 2 different things. The first Kriya Shema is the mitzvah d'oraisa of the pasuk. The second Kriya Shema was had a power of shmira. When we said it was like ochesh cherev shel shtei pios biyadav. It keeps away the mazikin, it keeps away the yisurin, and we launched onto yisurin and mazikin for the dafim and so on. Back then and daf, daf hey daf. Okay. In any case, so it's not Kriya Shema L'mita, which is a rabbinic phenomenon. It's the Kriya Shema of the uveshachbacha. You're lying down, meaning when society goes to bed or is in bed. Now let me emphasize another point which is important. You see from that very strange way of describing it, uveshachbacha, like when it's a singular, but when you collectively as a society go to bed, you see from there, and I wrote rise in the Gemara back in the beginning, that this is not based on an astronomical phenomenon, like, it's now Kriya Shema L'mita time. Oh, sorry. Am I recording? Google line here. I forgot to put it on airplane mode and the phone rang now, so it stops the recording. There's a double feature app. I guess that, I don't know. Okay, so that's that. So this is very important. I think it's conceptually very important and important to understand. Very important, especially to understand our sugya today. That when the Torah says uveshachbacha, it tells you like when it's time to go to bed or time to be in bed at the halacha, you should say Kriya Shema. But it's not nighttime. Meaning that the definitions of Kriya Shema, we might end up coming la halacha, we might end up saying it's when 3 stars come out until the break of dawn in the morning is the window. But that's not the siba. That's not what's driving the clock start and stop. There's a kriya shema window. What drives it is when people are in bed. It just happens to be that people are in bed basically from when it gets dark till when it stops being dark. We'll see today a little more about that. And that's why we even had shitas exactly about. We had 5 shitas, remember, on the base. And the base is that when the Shabbos starts, like the beginning of Banish Masha, so people make Kiddush, and so on and so forth. It's actually the same time, whatever. So we had different societal cues, social cues for when Kriya Shema begins. But the main point I want to say here, because without getting this subtle point, which I think most people who are on the sugi don't get it, is you actually really can't understand today's sugi without that point. Because we're going to end up saying, jumping the gun here, that the ending time is sort of a function when people get up, not at some astronomical phenomenon. And since, sort of again giving you a preview of what will come, since people get up, there's not one official start time. Some people in society, let's call them half the people in the world, get up at dawn, and half the people get up, let's for argument's sake say, at sunrise. And that's both in the realm of normal behavior in their society and their society of Kaveh of our society. So that window between the break of dawn and sunrise is an ambiguous period, which, as we'll see later on, is going to be able to sort of work both as the uveshach b'cha, the lying down time, because lots of people are still in their beds all through that last hour of the night, let's call it, and to them it's the last hour of the night. And lots of people are getting up by dawn, and for them it's the first hour of the morning, and it's uvakumecha time. And therefore we're going to see that window between the break of dawn and sunrise actually can function both for your kriya shema shel uveshach b'cha, the lying down one, and it can also function as your uvakumecha, you're getting up one, because both things are happening that time of day in society. And that wouldn't be possible if it was Shabbos comes in, when the day, the Shvi begins. When the 7th day begins, it's Shabbos, and Shabbos kicks in. That's an astronomical phenomenon, as though wiggle room. The only wiggle room comes from Suffolk about, Banish Mashas, and we don't know when to say, it's become no longer Friday, now Saturday. But most things in Jewish law are very much based on this astronomical phenomenon. Pesach begins when Pesach begins on the clock, and so on. So wiggle room. People feel like taking a Pesach, or people do. But Kriya Shema is different. Kriya Shema never said. In other words, I'll put it a different way. There's no such thing as a nighttime Kriya Shema and a daytime Kriya Shema. That is a bit of a misnomer. There's a bedtime Kriya Shema, or whatever, in bedtime Kriya Shema, and a getting up time Kriya Shema. You get it? There's a subtle difference. Yeah.
But you also have a subtle difference. Does it go by road, or because of your parnasa, you have
no? So
you work the night shift, or you work American hours.
So it clearly goes on what was normal in society at the time that the Gemara is done with it. And just so you should know, before the Industrial Revolution, before artificial lighting, every normal person, of course, somebody was up, the night guard was up all night, but everyone, meaning every normal person, slept at night and was up during the day, and they pretty much went to bed close to sundown, and they pretty much got up close to sunrise because that was just economic. That was the only sensible thing to do. We discussed once in the last couple of months. I've referenced it. There's a Chazon Ish. I want to get back to that today. Who I'll say it out because it'll sort of nail it shut if we stick with it. Bless you. The Chazon Ish who says that the Alpine Shel Torah. There's a Gemara in Sanhedrin of Tzadi Zayin. It says that the history of the world is divided into 6,000 years. Whatever, and they divided into 3 phases. The first 2,000, which is like Tohu and Vohu, chaotic. The second 2,000, which is of Torah, and the third 2,000, which is of Mashiach. I'm not saying Pshat like tomorrow. I'm just saying, he says the 2,000 Shel Torah, which basically, if you work it out, it comes out to being essentially when Avraham Avinu comes on the scene, more or less, it's 52, until essentially the closing of the Mishnah, roughly speaking. That period, the Chazon Ish says, that Alpine Shel Torah, those 2,000 years, are what define the Torah's norms. And if society or nature changes after that period, it doesn't change the halacha. That's what he deals with the issues
It also has to relate to Eretz Yisrael in some way, because latitude changes also.
There is stuff that could have implications in some areas. Like there are some shitas that how you measure, the beginning of the day depends on how high the sun is here, 61 degrees in Jerusalem and so on. But in terms of, it's a point, but not this point. The point here is that when the Torah says, when you I'll say collectively, it's a singular, but as a collective noun, so these are singulars. When you are in bed and when you get up, it means normal people, the vast majority of people at the time that it was talking to, and just so you should know, that was old human history until like 200 years ago for sure. So in any case, but to answer your question, if your question was, well, I work the night shift, and every morning I get up at 1 a.m. and I go to bed at, whatever, so then that doesn't matter.
You still have done a shock.
You're in trouble.
Yes, you're called Batla Data, it's called Adam, which is your attitudes don't count. Because the Torah is, when it's talking about social norms, we go to what normal society does. A normal society goes to bed at, bedtime, gets up at, sundown time or so, and gets up at sun up time.
But Shema Vita you do when you go to bed.
Yeah, Krishna Vita is, because that's not this. Krishna Vita is the third thing, which is when you're going to go to sleep, you'll need some shmira, because the nighttime, it is a nighttime issue. You don't say Krishna Vita during the day, because the nighttime, the boogie, mazik around, the boogeyman, there's a force of like Hashem Midas Adin is in full force there. We mentioned that, I'm not going back there either, we mentioned about the dogs barking at midnight. I referenced that a little bit over there. That was the sign. Then nighttime is a dark time, spiritually dark time, and that's, not the time. The first half of the night is considered to be the dark time of the night. At least, like Kabbalah from midnight onwards, it becomes good, but all not for now. The point is social norms, societal norms, which is basically when it gets dark, it's bedtime. When it gets light, it's getting up time. Fine. But here, so then it's like underscore what I said before. I think it's very important. But technically, there's no nighttime kriya shema and no daytime kriya shema. Although, of course, we use those terms. It's really the when people are in bed kriya shema and then when people get up kriya shema. That's important for our sugya today. Fine. So we'll pause there in the Mishnah because the Mishnah. We're going to discuss the next parts of the Mishnah in a few moments. But for now, we go back to the Mishnah over here. Assuming the Gemara over here, Ches on the base. And the two dots on line, whatever it was, 33, 10, 11 lines up from the bottom. And the two dots there. It says, Amar of Yehuda, Amar Shmuel. Rabbi Yehuda said the name of Shmuel. Rabbi Yehuda was one of Shmuel's main Talmidim. Shmuel was basically the God of the door in Bavel, or Rav. Not so much for now, but it's relevant. He's in Bavel there. He says, Halacha Rabban Gamliel. The halacha says, Rabbi Yehuda ben Shmuel, it's like Rabban Gamliel, meaning in our Mishnah, it's like Rabban Gamliel. Now, that's a little strange, because the halacha is usually like the Chacham, and technically speaking, actually, even in our Mishnah, it's like the Chacham. So, meaning that the halacha is, you have to say Kriya Shema by midnight. So what does Shmuel mean when he says, the halacha is like Rabban Gamliel? The main thing he must mean is that in the machlokas over pshat and the pasuk, there's two sides of the story. The b'shach b'cha means going to bed or in bed. Rabbi Eliezer says going to bed, and Rabbi Gamliel says in bed. And the halacha is like Rabbi Gamliel, meaning that midoraisa, the window is the whole night. B'shach b'cha means while you are in bed. Even though he can't mean that there's no problem saying Kriya Shema after midnight. He doesn't mean that. Okay? But they'll have another implication later on. We'll come back to it about the cutoff time in the morning. We'll see that more in a little bit. Okay, so that's the first thing he was saying. Now, the way I have it in my Gemara, which I learned from, I don't know some burger, I have a little, maybe Moshe like this, because Moshe Dalton, because are you with me?
Yes.
Yes, because you usually like the markings here. So I like a Roman numeral 1 over here in my Gemara, right at this point, where it says Tanya. What that signifies is, down a few lines, or 6 lines or so, it'll be Roman numeral 2, because there are two versions to what we're going to have here. Okay? In other words, the structure will be in the Gemara, will be Tanya. It says in a brisa, blah, 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 blah. The brisa ends, the Gemara asks, that brisa doesn't make sense, it contradicts itself, we resolve that issue, and then we say, okay, and done. We resolve it, makes sense to the brisa. Then, I'm looking for someone, I'm sure. Okay, then 4 lines up from the bottom, I'm just showing the structure. 4 lines up from the bottom, with the line starts with halacha. So then there's a thing that says Ika Damasi Laha, which means there are those who teach this. I'm not going to get into what this is, but it's loosely speaking what we said before, Roman numeral 1, loosely speaking. They teach it a different way. They Ika Damasi, there are those who, like Masi, like we have Masnisim teach in the Mishnah, there are those who taught over this statement in a different way. And we're going to sort of restate it in a different way. So you see the structure will be 2 versions of the story, and there'll be nuanced differences. Okay? So I put Roman numeral 1 here, and here's what it says. Tanya, it says in a brisa, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, that's Shimon bar Yochai, it's coming up, his day's coming up soon now. Omer, Pamim she'adam korah kriya shema shtei pamim b'layla. Sometimes you can say kriya shema twice in the night, like nighttime. Achas kodum shi'ala amud shachar, once before the break of dawn. V'achas la'achas shi'ala amud shachar, once after the break of dawn. V'yotze be'en yidei chava. So you'll be fulfill your obligations. Achas shel yom, both for the kriya shema you say in the nighttime, v'achas shabbat, the kriya shema in the nighttime. Okay. Now, so let me draw this in the board.
I don't get this.
There's only going to get. I don't know what it's. Yeah. 1 second.
Twice in the night.
That's the Gemara's going to ask. Wait a second. The Gemara's going to answer your question, which is, wait a second. You can't have both ways. How can you say you yield to the daytime one at a time? That's the Gemara's next question. But just before we get there, 5 by 200. Make sure this is clear. So here's our. I'm not drawing a clock. I'm drawing a timeline. Time is moving this way. I'm drawing here. So here's our timeline. Okay, so here is dawn. This is called Shiyat. I'll call it Amud HaShachar, which literally means the pillar of the dawn. Okay. This is sunrise. This is Neit Sakama, spark of the morning. Time's going this way, okay? So what we said here is a person could say his Kriya Shema, but he said now, Shimon bar Yochai, ben Yochai, said, you can say Kriya Shema twice in the night and be Yotzi both your daytime and your nighttime Kriya Shema. Ignoring that contradiction about daytime, nighttime, and night, what's the picture look like this? Once you're saying it here, and once you're saying it here, and we're saying that this period over here until sunrise is all night. And therefore we're saying, Shimon bar Yochai is saying, you say Kriya Shema over here, it's nighttime. Over here the sun hasn't risen, it's still nighttime. That's where we're standing here. And yet you can be Yotzi the 2 Kriya Shemas, because he's going to say, maybe I should just to make it clear. We say Kriya Shema over here, so this is already going to be the Uvukumecha time, because the Gemara will end up saying, you can be Yotzi the Uvukumecha, that's what the Pasuk says, because people are getting up. People are getting up. Lots of people are getting up now. So that's a good time to say that Kriya Shema Uvukumecha, getting up time. And over here, you're Yotzi the, I'll just call it the Uveshach. This is the line. Is that how you spell line? How do you spell line? L-I-E.
Line?
Lying down? Lying down. People are still lying down, and therefore you can be Yotzi your Uveshach, you're lying down time. That's what he has to say. This is we'll call this. There's a loosely speaking here. We're calling this the Kriya Shema of the Yom, because it's like getting up time. And loosely speaking here, we're calling this the Kriya Shema of the Laila, because of nighttime. Now, the Gemara is going to ask the very question that you, Eliezer and Shalom, are asking, which is a joke with the gun. The Gemara say, wait a second. You're calling this the Kriya Shema of the Yom, but you're telling me this period that's called Laila. So what are you talking about? So that's what the Gemara is going to ask right now. Okay. So the Gemara says, Ha Gufa Kasha, which means before we even think about the implications of what you're saying, what you said itself is literally difficult. I mean, it's self-contradictory. Amarta, you said, Pamim sha'adam kara kriya shema shtei pamim balayla. And my Gemara like we'll underline the word balayla, because we're talking like in what it's supposed to be brown. The brown. It said that appears all night. So then alma, like therefore, alma means don't get confused. Alma with the hey is not this word. That is like lama, why. But this is alma with an aleph, which means like therefore, thus, like the implication. So alma, you can deduce from the fact that you called it night that la'achar sh'yala amuna shachar, that even after the dawn, right, in the second on the right of the dawn marker, lil yahu, it's still nighttime, as we draw in brown. So if that's true, v'hadar, then you went on, hadar means you proceeded, or like you went back. V'hadar, you went back, and tani, and you said, quote, your yotzi ben yedei chavaso, achas shel yom, v'achas shel laila. Then you went and said you could be yoti two kriya shemas, one of the yom, again, squiggle underline that, squiggle underline the word yom, so to speak. You said you could be yoti your yom, and also your laila. But it doesn't make sense, because there, if you say you're yoti your yom, in the red X section, alma, that implies the period between dawn and sunrise is yamamahu, it's daytime. So which one is it? Is the period between dawn and sunrise nighttime or daytime? Question mark. That's a kasha.
I have another question. There's some time when you can't put on your talis and phone.
That's good. Hold that thought. Yeah, we'll get to that in a second with Tosos. That's good. But now we're fair talis and fill in other mitzvahs. That was an interesting question.
But you're supposed to say shema, with the...
Okay, fine. Let's leave it all aside. It is important, but I want to keep it simple so far, right?
Okay.
So we have we had a brisa in Shimon Gamliel that said you can say a kriya shema once before dawn, once after dawn, and be yotzi both obligations in the night. So the Gemara is now focused on not that interesting phenomenon of how you yotzi twice back to back. We're not there yet.
You have
We're
to
saying
say it twice.
well, there's two mitzvahs, right? There's the uveshachmucha and ukmecha.
So you have to say Shema twice.
You have to say Shema twice for sure, like every day, like you do twice a day. So, by the way, you should know this is not a topic either right now. But although we are used to the Rambam's counting that there's one mitzvah kriya shema which comes up twice a day, there are those from the Moniyah mitzvah, the people count the mitzvahs, actually count as two separate mitzvahs. There's a nighttime mitzvah and a daytime mitzvah.
That's why you said different brachos. It's not one mitzvah.
I don't know if that's true or not. Do you know that for a fact? Are you suggesting? I'm not
I
sure.
heard something.
They're not really birka. I don't know. Those mitzvahs. We'll look what's the birchas kriya shema in a little while. As Hashem, they're not really bracha in the normal sense. They're not a shek shalom mitzvos of brachas. Anyways, that's another topic for another time. In any case, but this is clear. You need to say kriya shema twice a day. Once we'll call it bedtime and once rising time. So Reb Shimon Bar Yochai said you can be yotzi both the bedtime and the rising time kriya shemas at night. Just say once before, once after dawn. So then I'm sort of resolving the problem. The way I've explained it has been, so to speak, too clear. The problem, of course, is clearer. If we're calling it a daytime reading, how can you say you're yotzi the yom daytime reading if it's still nighttime? You can't have it both ways. That's the Gemara's question. The Gemara's answer will be as let it out by paving the way that it's not about day and night per se. It's about getting up and going exactly right. So that's what the Gemara answers. The Gemara says, "Lo, the truth is, it's not so bad. It's not a contradiction. La'olam really, la'olam often is really, so le'eliyahu, the whole period until sunrise is indeed nighttime, at least according to this version, number one, this version of the Gemara. It's nighttime. But v'hadikari le'yom, and yet we said it's daytime with respect to kriya shema, that's only de'ika anshe dekani b'hai shaita. There are people who are getting up at that time of the day. And since they're getting up at that time of the day, even though it's nighttime, it's uvukumecha time.
Right.
You with it? Even though it's nighttime, astronomically, it's uvukumecha time socially, societally. For them, yeah. Okay, moving on past thing for them, for us. It's just, so that resolves the problem. Everything should be perfectly, hopefully everything is perfectly clear. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, come on. So, Amar of Acha Bar Chanina. Upon reflection of this Tanaitic teaching, this Amora, Rav Acha Bar Chanina, says, Amr Reb Shuban Levi. Reb Shuban Levi had said, that brings us back to Tana, that the halacha is Reb Shimon ben Yochai. That indeed the halacha is like Reb Shimon ben Yochai, meaning this is true. This is true. You can say Kriya Shema back to back and be once before, once after dawn, and be Yotzi both. Okay?
I mean, wouldn't like that.
So, now, okay, Why are you saying that?
Because they sit up until midnight.
Okay, fine, okay, interesting. So that's why so that's why I think we predicated. The question was the Chacham said you only have until midnight. So that as it was fleshed out in the Mishnah, we'll see more in Daf Tes. The Chacham are going to say l'chachila till midnight, but b'di eved you actually have until the end of the night, and that's what. When the sugya opened up today, saying the halacha is Gamliel, I think it's coming to address that point and saying, yes, we all agree that l'chachila is till midnight, but we're past that. The point is, if you whatever happened, and now you get off your airplane and you realize the time zones are mixed up, and you still could, you could still say kriya shema of the nighttime because dawn hasn't broke. That's the point. There is a separate point which you asked about. There's like this. It's a side point, but I'm going to speak it out. It's halachically significant, which is that you actually can't say kriya shema at the exact break of dawn for the morning. We'll see. There's a separate issue about the Zman V'Talis and Tefillin, which could overlap here, okay? But I don't get into that exactly yet. But we'll see in the next Mishnah, not too far from now, Baruch Hashem, the next, done away. The test plan we'll pick it up here. We'll say the times for Kriya Shema of the morning. And there we'll say Kriya Shema, you can't say Kriya Shema at the break of dawn, you have to have a bit of light. Machlok is how much light, you have to see the difference, we'll see the different shitas. But the point is, dawn, Amr Shachar means that if you're in a pitch black, moonless night, and your eyes are ready, your rods and cones are ready for the darkness, and you're ready, and you're watching on the eastern horizon. The first instant you can detect some inkling of it's lighter over there than it's over there, at that point, like Amud Shachar, first light has happened. And now it's, we've crossed that line. So, that's not enough light yet to see, Tchelos Lavan or whatever the issue this year in Marvel. There's not enough light yet, for sure. So, and you have to wait to say Kriya Shema until you hit some amount of light, which let's say is 12 minutes, 22 minutes, 32 minutes afterwards, whatever the number is. So, I'm just speaking out here as a halachic point. It doesn't mean that you literally, if this is, let's say this is 6 a.m. for argument's sake, you can't say Kriya Shema at 5:56 and then pick up again at 6:01. 6:01 is too early to say Kriya Shema in the morning, and that's not what Shimon was going to say. He meant in this window there's a possibility. He says, okay, fine, after 12 minutes or whatever it is, after 50 minutes before sunrise. But the point is you could say Kriya Shema before sunrise, even though it's still nighttime, and be able to your uvukumeka. The point is, it's an extraneous point, but it's an important halachic point. I want you to realize if it ever happens to you, if you've been up all night, don't say, okay, well I'll just say Kriya Shema and go to sleep, and you wait till the second after the moment of alos. Alos and Amr Shachar, we use a synonymous for our purposes here. Because that's not right. You have to wait. Kriya Shema can't be said until roughly 50 minutes before dawn. Roughly, I'm saying roughly because that depends on your latitude and perhaps and other considerations. Yeah.
Just wondering, if that whole section there is called night, where we should when you're high, then couldn't you make the cutoff nates? You just say the nighttime Kriya Shema before nates and the morning Kriya Shema after nates?
Yeah, of course.
Yes, you absolutely could. That's exactly right. So he's saying yes. In other words, the chiddush was indeed he's saying since this is all night and many people are in bed until sunrise, you for sure could say your uvashach b'chav over here also. Because chiddush was in the same window of night you could do it twice. Two both
right.
Like you could double in. That was the chiddush. That's the chiddush.
It seems very odd that you'd be saying the uvashach b'chav Kriya Shema, when the sun, it's so light out and the sun is about to come up.
No, you're not doing it. No, I think he's saying from. No, because because you're thinking
Night and day.
astronomical.
Right.
Don't think astronomical. Think social. That's the way I'm making that point. Because it's only strange to you because too much. You know what I mean? But if you just take it as half the world is still in their beds till sunrise, so it's still bedtime, and it's okay. Because that's the piece of lumps here, the subtlety here. So in the first version, I'll call this here, Roman numeral 1. Night extends all the way to sunrise, okay? But yet between dawn and sunrise, since people are getting up, you can't say Kriya Shema of uvukumecha variety. And then that man making a side point most recently, which is, but not right away. You need a bit more light than just Amud Shachar light. That's a side point of light. Okay.
If you're going to say Shema then when you put your talis tefillin on?
We'll get to this. I don't want to conflate all these different issues. It's an interesting question, but let's say you say without your talis tefillin, and that's a different point. It's significant. Like, well,
I had a situation where I had to be at work at a certain time. I wasn't able to be at Mindy in the morning, so my Rav gave me directions on what to do and so on and so on. And so there are remedies.
Yeah. I'm not gonna. At the end, we have all the pieces we can discuss, like halacha what to do. Like it's tricky in America, maybe here too, I guess, for that matter. But then it's worse in the higher latitudes, where in the wintertime, like it could not, sunrise could be like 8 a.m. I remember when I lived in London, it was like that. So, which means that like, and you have to catch 7 a.m. train. So how when you know Shabbos? Okay, well, listen. When we get all the pieces on the table, we can discuss these what ifs and how to deal with talis and tefillin and when you make your brachos and all that kind of stuff. I'm just distilling the main issue, which is like we're just trying to define the parameters of the mitzvah of kriya shema v'shach v'chav v'kumecha. We discussed at great length in the first daf, the beginning time. Now we're discussing the end time. So like it's a little funny. So there's this interesting phenomenon where the end time is a little ambiguous. You can use this period over here to be the end time of your Vukumecha, or the beginning of your the end time of your V'shachpecha, or the beginning of your Vukumecha. We'll go both
What
ways.
happens if you say it twice in the piece between dawn and sunrise?
That's not going to work. It's not going to work.
Why? Because
We'll see. It's just, you can't have both ways. Is it getting up time or going to bed time? You can't have both
it's
ways.
like mikveh after plug and
Like
before
the
plug.
they call it tar to the sauce, right? You can't have both ways. But here the beauty is there is an okay. So in version 1, this night goes until sunrise, and this is day. Okay? Days goes on until until 3 stars come out for the stories. Okay. Now we're going to do another version of the story in a moment. With the Roman numeral 2. So if I look back inside here, again on line 5, we had said in the middle of the sentence, it said Amr of Acha Bar Chanina. He's again the Mora, he's the Mora. He's paskening, but he's important. Acha Bar Chanina is saying that in the name of Rav Shimon Levi, the halacha is like Rav Shimon Bar Yochai. Okay? In other words, you can rely on this. You can rely on this. Period. Now the Gemara says, in line 4 lines up from the bottom, Ika demasi laha to Rav Acha Bar Chanina. There are those who say that when Rav Acha Bar Chanina had said the halacha is like Rav Shimon, he wasn't referring to what we just said, version 1 of the thing. He was actually referring to a different version of the story. The Tanya Reb Shimon ben Yochai Amar Reb Shimon Rabbi Akiva. That's a slight difference, right? It's Reb Shimon Yochai the name of Rabbi Akiva. But the point is now we're in Roman numeral 2 territory. Let me say this again, I want to make sure it's clear. When Rav Acha Bar Chanina said the halacha is like Reb Shimon, he wasn't referring to the Reb Shimon that's in that version of the Brisa in Roman numeral 1. He was referring to Reb Shimon in a different version of the Brisa in Roman numeral 2, which I'm going to show you now. And that happened to be in that Reb Shimon said it in the name of Rabbi Akiva. And Rav Acha Bar Chanina passes like Reb Shimon in that.
Sorry, is this a different version of the Brisa?
Yes,
or a
different-
different Brisa altogether?
That's an interesting, nuanced question. I would think it's a different.
Why not?
It could possibly be either, but let's for now.
What's the difference?
There isn't.
Well, they
okay.
can both be true. So
Right. So let's call it a different version of the brisa. But what I mean by that is let's assume, for argument's sake, that these brises are totally irreconcilable, and there's 2 versions of what Rav Shimon said. Okay, so in other words, we're saying, in other words, let's just keep it simple for a second, and I'll go back and say, which I think we're already saying. In other words, the first version says Rav Shimon said, night goes until Nate, and the next version is going to say night goes until Elul Shachar. So you can't reconcile those. Let's assume there are 2 versions of 2 irreconcilable versions. The reason why I'm dragging my feet on that or whatever, I'm waffling, is because it's possible. It's possible, and maybe it's even true. I don't know for a fact that since the first one was Rav Shimon and the second was Rav Shimon named Rabbi Akiva, for all I know, there are 2 different brises, and for all I know, Rav Shimon was passing on his own in the first one, and he's only saying what his Rabbi Akiva said in the second one. He doesn't agree with it. It's a possibility. I don't know if it's true. I'm just saying it's logically sound from the information I have in front of me
makes
here.
sense.
I don't know. But let's just say it's two separately reconcilable versions of the story. And yeah, but here's just so we get this. At least let's be disciplined in our reading of the words. All the Gemara said is, I'll say it in English, then I'll read you the words again. That when Rav Achar bar Chanina said the halacha is like Rav Shimon, what was like Rav Shimon in what context? So the first version was in the context we just said, and there are those who say no, he meant it in the context of the following brisa. Yeah? Your question was, is there two versions or is it two brisas? I was like, let's assume that there are two versions and that are not reconcilable. Because that point is not our point. In any case, again, so it says, Ika Damasi, and those who teach, Lahad Rav Achar bar Chanina, that when Rav Achar bar Chanina had said, Halach Rav Shimon, he was going on this following version. The Tana Rav Shimon ben Yochai, Rav Shimon Rabbi Kiva, he said, quote, and it's the same, you'll see it's structurally more or less identical to what we said before, except that we're making the cutoff for night on Amud Shachar. So he says, Pamim, sometimes, Sha'adam Korah Kriya Shema Shtei Pamim Bayom. A person can read Kriya Shema twice during the day. Achas Kodem Nates, Hachama, once before Nates, Hachama, Va'achas La'achar Nates Hachama, once after Nates Hachama. V'yotze behen, Yidei Chavaso, he can be yotzi both his obligations, Achas Shal Yom, the Uvukumecha one, and also Achas Shalala, the Uvishach B'cham one. So the drawing looks like this. In the orange here. That was room numeral, so to speak. That was the brown version. So speaking in brown. Now I'm doing the room numeral 2, the orange version, which says like this: that night only goes from here. And the second version, and here is. So cutoff, the cutoff is here, as opposed to the cutoff being over after. The cutoff being here. So again, so here we're calling the bottom version. We're saying we could say your Kriya Shema, thank you, once over here, and call that Yom. This is the Uva Kumecha, and once in the night over here, and call this the If you give a moment to digest that. So I'll read the words again to you. But he's saying you can read it once before sunrise and once after sunrise, and be yotzi both, even though they're both in the daytime. Once for the daytime, one for the nighttime. Again, we'll ask the same kasha about was it day or night, the exact same kasha. Night, all I'm putting here. Ignoring that, the point is, since the period of astronomical day begins at the break of dawn, but since people are still in their beds, they can read the Uvishach B'cha one, even though it's day, because people are still in their beds.
What did Rabbi Gamliel say in terms of when?
That's a good question. Rabbi Gamliel, for what it's worth, it is important. He said you have until Amud Shachar.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Okay, we'll get back to that. Good to the question. We'll get back to that in a moment. But Rabbi Gamliel did say that. We'll get back to that in a minute. We'll get back to that. But now, the second version of the brisa that we bring, that Rav Achar bar Chanina was saying, Rav Shimon was saying, you can say it twice. Once before, once after sunrise, and be yot, even though it's all daytime, you can be yotzi both your daytime and your nighttime Kriya Shema.
Is there any difference between Oris Shach and Amud Shach?
Let's assume they're the same. Let's assume they're the same. There are some sheets that it is different, but it just makes it complicated. Let's keep it, it's the same. Exactly the same. So, the Gemara is now going to ask, going to say, wait a second, exact same structure. If this is all daytime from Amud Shachar, how can you say you're yotzi the nighttime one? And it will answer, well, because there's no nighttime Kriya Shema. There's only the Kriya Shema people are still in bed, and plenty of people are still in bed until sunrise. So same structure. Okay? But there's a big difference. The big difference, the world difference, is that when does halachic day begin? All difference in the world. Okay? There's many mitzvahs that you only do by day. So Kriya Shema is unusual. Kriya Shema is the weird one where it's based on society, not based on astronomy. But if there's a mitzvah of, I don't know, if you have to shake a lulav by day on Sukkot, on the first day, you have to shake a lulav. So if you're shaking before Nates or Yotzi, and so on. Okay? So, before we get to all those complicated issues, let's just see the Gemara's words. So the Gemara says, I'll read the words again so you can now have a drawing on the board, you can follow what they're drawing here. Pa'amim, sometimes, sha'adam kara kriya shema shtei pa'amim bayom. You can say kriya shema twice during the day, because we're in version 2 in orange, and day begins at dawn. Achas kodem nates, the first one in green, b'shach bacha, it's still the before nates. Hachama, va'achas la'achar nates hachama. One is after. Nates means spark, hachama of the sun, meaning when you look on the horizon, when the sun just peaks over the horizon, the first peak of the sun, this spark, like a little spark of light, that's called nates hachama, the sun is broke. V'yotzi behen, and you can be yotzi with those two readings, yidei chova, so your obligations, achas shel yom, the daytime obligation of the uvukumecha in red, and the nighttime one, achas shel laila, and again that's the weird statement between squila and laila, the nighttime one of the uvukumecha in green. End of Brisa. Then the Gemara says, ha gufa kasha, before we even think about the implication, what you said doesn't make any sense. Self-contradiction. Amarta pam mishadam kar kriya shema shtei pamim bayom. You said a person can read kriya shema twice during the day. And then you said, Alma, therefore, kodem netzachama, even before the sun has made for sunrise, it's still yamamahu, it's still considered day, all the way back to dawn, as we have over there. So that's daytime in orange. V'hadar, then you went to Patani and you said, Yoti behen yidei chovaso, achas shel yom va'achas shel laila. It's called underlined laila. You said you can be Yotzi kriya shema of the nighttime. So that Alma, that implies that it's Leliyahu, the time between dawn and sunrise is night. So which one is it? Is it day or is it night? The correct answer is the same as before. Lo, on top of Testament Aleph. Lo. It's not a contradiction. Lo olam yimamam. Really, after sunrise, it's daytime. The high to Karla Laila, but the only reason we call it nighttime is with respect to Kriya Shema, because Kriya Shema says when people are getting up, uvukumecha. And the nighttime one is uvuk shach b'chom, people are still lying down. And de'ika inshi, there are those people deganu b'ha yishata, who are still sleeping at that time of the night. Whatever, that time of the day I should call it. That time of the day they're still sleeping. So it's still considered uvuk shach b'chom. Period. Okay? So that's the main. That's what we saw yesterday. Fine. The PS after the period is Amr Rabbi Acha, Rabbi Chanina, Amr Rabbi Shua Levi, Halacha Rabbi Shimon, Amr Mishum Rabbi Kiva. The halacha is like Rabbi Shimon, meaning the second version, version 2, the orange version. That's when you can say Kriya Shema of the Chiddush is you can say Kriya Shema of the night and even after dawn. So hear that then. Now you've got a machlokas. A machlokas here, which is, can you say in this period here is this day or night, and therefore as the Chiddush you can still say the Kriya Shema of the day or if it's really night, or of night it's really day. The halacha, before you get anything more complicated, just so you should know, the halacha bottom line is both are right, which means you can have either or. In the period between dawn and dusk, you can do this move, or you can do this move. You have to be mindful about those few minutes after dawn and before enough light. That's the side point. The point is halacha, you can do both, or either. Either. Sorry.
Either.
Yeah, exactly. Either you can do either. Now you're going to ask a question, which is sorry.
You can do both, and then.
No, you can't do both in here. You can't do both here. But you can do this version, right, the brown version, if you will, or you do the orange. You can do either or. The halacha, like bottom line, before any confusion. Now you asked the question, what about Rabbi Gamliel? And that's going to be an important point here. Rabbi Gamliel said, well, he says the boys came to him. We'll see the Gemara will discuss. I'll just jump the gun a little bit. The boys said, if you remember the Mishnah, I'll show you all inside in a second. This is sort of a preview. The boy said, we were out at the party, we forgot to say Kriya Shema, can we say it now? He said, well, if it hasn't been done yet, you can still say Kriya Shema of the night. So that's screaming to you that the cutoff is over here. The cutoff is over here, right? That's what it's screaming, right?
Right.
And so the question is, so how can we sell Allah like Rabbi Gamliel? So how can it be both? So we will get to that in a moment. We'll get to that in a moment, okay? Now, before I move on, there's a Tosfos here which is which is what it is. Tosfos seems to, I don't really understand why, but there's lots of caution on that, but Tosfos seems to take the first version quite seriously, which is strange because la halacha, ignoring look for kriya shema purposes, you can have either or. Depend. We'll see why. You'll need to have shas and chak to compress the situation. But the parameters of when you're allowed to rely on this version, it has to be we'll see in a second. It has to have been like a onus, whatever the story is. But putting that aside, if you would ask, just go ask a posek, hey, when does the day begin? Halacha day begin? I'll tell you at dawn. I'll tell you at dawn. So it's funny that Tosfos takes this version seriously at all, but he does. I can't, I don't know enough. I don't know if there's enough. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. I don't know. It's I understand why Tosfos is taking it so seriously. But Tosfos takes it seriously and has to explain that, it's considered night, but that's unique. But it's the first version. Night goes until sunrise. He's going to take that quite seriously, and he just points out that and all mitzvahs, therefore, of the day cannot begin until sunrise, and then he mentions the unusualness of tefillin and tzitzis because they go a little earlier. But in other words, it sounds like from this Tosfos, that if you ask this Tosfos over here, if I shook my lulav and it was over here, it was before sunrise, am I yotzi b'diavad? He would say no, which is strange. That's not the halacha. Okay, I'm not sure. Just out of my ignorance, I'm not sure if Tosfos really takes it seriously, and that this Baal Tosfos, whoever it was, says, day begins over here. It's problematic because there's some explicit Gemaras like that. It's strange. Or maybe you're just saying it where we are up to in the Gemara so far. But just so you should know, let me say it again. When Rashi speaks, Rashi there is not a halakhist. Rashi's holding, he's like the first article, is holding your hands with the Gemara, and he's saying, up to now what you read, here's what you should be understanding. And even if it's going to later on be incorrect, he just wants you to understand what the Gemara is saying now. It doesn't bother, and then one line will say the exact opposite. Understand? So Rashi wouldn't surprise me. Rashi wouldn't say there's another version. Up to now, this is the way I understand it. Tosfos usually is looking at the whole sugya, and he's sort of getting towards more bottom line. It's a little strange to say Tosfos, was ignoring the fact that it's a second version, and he was just going so far so good. That's not like how Tosfos usually works. So it's a little strange. But in any case, there's Tosfos. You should know it could well be a Tosfos, Shitas Tosfos, the halachic day doesn't begin until here. It is what it is. Yes, good question.
Doesn't the Gra also say that the day starts at Nates based on that's how we calculate social creation from Nates?
So there is in terms of the calculations of the hours of the day, indeed, there's a big mega machlokes if you go from sunrise to sunset, or if you go from Rosh Hashanah till Tezko Chavim. But so it does come into play, but I'm pretty sure that the Gra, in terms of calculations of the hours, yes, but in terms of mitzvahs, certainly the spirit over here is considered a halachic day. It's too late.
So given the discussion of this, sometimes, all the time, whenever I think of Bein Hashmashos, I think of day going into night. But
that's true.
Is it also the other, from the other?
No, Bein Hashmashos only happens once a day. In the evening.
It's only, evening time.
Yeah.
So we don't call, the period of time from the faintest to all of the Shachar until late, we don't call that.
No, it's not Bein Hashmashos. It is called, for what it's worth, we discussed this, it is called Neshef. Remember we had the Neshef, and remember it's there back on the
wait a minute, of course it's not, because the day has already begun from...
Right, the middle of the day. We had Neshef, it was on the Dal, the Gimel, must have been Dal, I forgot, Dal Gimel. End of Gimel, beginning of Dal, we said that there's Neshef, must have been Dal Gimel base. Neshef was the twilight period, and we said there are two Neshefs, there's a nighttime and a daytime. In any case, so pretty much, I see the time is up. So we didn't say anything, so now we stop, we're recording stop. So we did not do anything new really from what we did yesterday, except is it dramatically better today than it was yesterday? Like, just clearer? Is it
For me it was.
But yeah. Right. I'm saying, did you guys walk away with this yesterday before I read the Mishnah before first? I went a little slower. I described the preview with the structure. I drew it on the board. Or just much clearer?
I think it was a lot better.
I think it was more clear.
Clear, yeah. So it'll take me a bit, like, we're shifting gears now from zooming through or whatever it is. Or just, the way I did it in Mishnah yesterday now, doing more is like try to give all the principles ahead of time, preview before we go into it, so you see the structure so you know where we're headed. We did do that yesterday, so I think that the information blurs together. At least if you
Especially this, it's confusing.
right, it's confusing. But now we think we're getting closer to the confusing.
I'll just say one thing, that if you spend the whole week, and every single day you go through the same piece, it would probably still be clearer.
Yeah, the pace here, I
There's
think
a
is
point at which it becomes diminishing returns.
right.
But there's always going to be some additional
But
insight that's going.
given that, I'd say the same in terms of the presentation and the pace of the presentation. Like, I don't think people are pulling their hair saying, "Why are you saying the same thing twice?
No,
Why are you
I
drawing
don't
a picture
feel
on the
that.
board?" Okay, so that's why I'm doing it again. Okay, so it's more. I think the drawings is a touch. That's why I said what we did yesterday was like the only pace. We did it like that piece in 12 minutes. It's
Right.
it's not. We had the luxury of not being rushed.
That's your car.
Okay,
Still have that, yeah?
okay, very good.